Okay, so sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. The first two questions here are just like a bit of a recap from Monday's lesson. So I want you guys to try both of these by yourself. In both cases, I'm asking you for the perimeter of each of the following shapes. And so let's give A and B a try here. Let's see what we come up with, and then we'll go through the answers in a few minutes. Finally realized their card alarm was going off. Okay, so guys, just take careful note of what information you have been given. Go back in your notes to Monday's lesson because there are some useful formulas there for you, hopefully. Obviously, if you're struggling, just ask on the chat. But let's give this a try. Please also remember that your answers should always have some unit in them. And so take careful note of what your units are that your answer should be to, please. So again, guys, if we are struggling, just let me know on the chat and I can help you out. But again, we did this all on Monday, so go back to your notes and have a look there as well. Right, I like that Rojas put there on the chat as well. Remember, the special word for perimeter of a circle is circumference. Okay, so when we talk about the circumference, we're talking about the perimeter of a circle. Please, let's also round off to 2 decimal places. Sorry, I should have said that to you when necessary. So again, guys, 2 decimal places when necessary. And remember your units. And if you need, go back to Monday's notes because you've got some hopefully useful information from there if you took down notes properly. Zimi, I don't mind. Probably at a grade 8 level, you would always be expected to round it off to 2 decimal places. Both are technically fine, but like I say, at a generally measurement, we always round off to 2 decimal places. So generally, we do convert it from the pi form. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you another minute or so, and then we're going to have a look. Just because, again, this is a revision of Monday's lesson. Well done, Zami, on remembering your reason as well. So guys, remember, anytime you use Pythagoras, you need to have your reason there. Okay, cool, guys. Let's have a look. I'm liking the answers that I'm seeing. So hopefully we can just do tick, 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 and that's that. Oops. Alrighty, so the first one, like I said, circumference is the special word we use for the perimeter of a circle. Now, guys, remember there are two formulas to work out the circumference of a circle. I don't really mind which one you use. It's really up to you. I've said this already. I would pick one and stick with that one. There's no point in trying to confuse the situation by having multiple formulas on the go. So your circumference is either found, such a long word, by saying 2 times pi times r, or just 2 pi r, that's fine as well. Or by saying pi times diameter, or you can just say pi d, same thing, right? So either way, these are your circumference formulas. You don't use both, you use one of them. And again, I would pick one and I would stick with it. If you use the 2 pi r formula, so circumference equals, what we need to remember is the relationship that exists between your radius and your diameter. So remember, your radius is 2 times your diameter, whereas your, no, please just ignore me. Your radius is half of your diameter, and your diameter is 2 times your radius. Okay, so that's the relationship that exists. So here we have been given the diameter. If we then want to work out the radius, we would need to divide this in half. So our radius, which is from center to one point on my circumference, is equal to 60 millimeters. So again, if I'm going to use a 2 pi r, 2 times pi times my radius r, on your calculator, that will give you 120 pi millimeters. And this is what I was saying to Zimi earlier. You could leave it in the pi form. The thing with like measurement concepts is that it makes more sense in our brains to have a decimal. Like, I don't know what 120 pi means in terms of a length. So we often convert it. And so this becomes 376,9911184 millimeters. Now guys, obviously you don't write all of these decimals. I'm just writing it so we can have a conversation about rounding. If you want to round off to 2 decimal places, we want to stop after the second. 1 has no effect on 9, so this is technically 376,99 millimeters. Now that makes a lot more sense for me, okay? That is roughly 38 centimeters. That I can visualize better in my head than 120 pi. So that's why we generally round off to the decimals. If you're going to use the other format of your circumference formula, which is pi times diameter, in this case, you were given the diameter already, so you didn't have to do anything. That again would give you 120 pi. And this is again why I'm saying it makes no difference which formula you use, you end up with exactly the same answer. So again, pick one, stick with it. You might have to convert to get a radius, you might have to convert to get a diameter, but those things you can easily do. Alrighty, so and that is how we deal with that. Sorry. Question B, we now have a right angle triangle. Again, we're looking for the perimeter of our shape. So if we just go and understand where our perimeter is, it's from A to B, whoopsie, down to C, so the 12 millimeters, and then back up to A. That is our perimeter. We know two of those three sides. I now need to use Pythagoras to work out AC. Now AC is my hypotenuse, it's opposite the right angle. So AC squared is equal to 5 squared plus 12 squared. And remember your reason, please. Right, from this point, grade 8, honestly, just type that into your calculator. So just type 5 squared plus 12 squared. If you want to do it separately and get 25 plus 144, that's fine, but you end up at 169 anyways. We obviously don't want AC squared, we want AC, so we need to square root both sides in order to get rid of that square. And so that means that AC is equal to 13 millimeters. Now that we know what AC is, we can work out our perimeter. So perimeter is equal to 13 plus 12 plus 5. 13 plus 12 is 25, plus 5 is 30 millimeters. Okay, again, please remember your units. You will only ever lose 1 mark throughout an entire test and exam for not putting units, but that's a really silly mark to lose when it's not necessary. Always just remember your units with any measurement answer that you have. Right, grade 8, let us take screenshots. If anyone has any questions, now's the time to raise your hand and ask me. Otherwise, we're going to have a look at one more, and then I might try to give you a slightly more complex one before we take a little break. So remember, any questions, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so compass question, what if the unknown value in the triangle isn't AC? So Canva, even if it was AB or BC, you would still use Pythagoras, but remember, when it's one of the sides that isn't the hypotenuse, that's when we would subtract. So then we'd say AC minus whatever the other side is. So you would still use Pythagoras. It's just that form of Pythagoras where we have to do the subtraction. Alrighty. Cool, no problem. Right, so grade 8, let's have a look at question C here. So it says, and again, like really important to read your questions because often it gives you a lot of information. The perimeter of the shape below is 30 centimeters. So I'm telling you that if you add x plus 3 plus 5 plus 10 plus 6, you will get 30. Determine the value of x. Okay, so I want you to try. Let's see what we come up with. 2 minutes, you shouldn't need that long, and then we'll go through it. Again, guys, remember your units. It is in centimeters here, so we need to actually put our answers in centimeters. My cat has decided that she's going to sit behind me on the chair, but that means I've got about that much chair to sit on. And whilst I love her dearly, it's not comfortable. But we suck it up. Nice, guys. I like what I'm seeing. Okay, so I said this to you on Monday. Try and start setting up your answers as an equation and solving for x. It's what we expect you to do in the future. So if you can get into that habit now, you're sorted. So we know that x plus 3 centimeters plus 5 centimeters plus 10 centimeters plus 6 centimeters must give us 30 centimeters. So if we add all of these like terms on the left-hand side, that gives us x plus 24 is equal to 30. And now when we subtract 24 on both sides of our equation, we're able to solve for x. And so exactly as you guys have said there on the chat, x is equal to 6 centimeters. So we had this discussion last week as well. On Monday as well. We need to be able to work backwards from a perimeter to determine an unknown length. And in this case, it was x. Right, so let's take our screenshots. If anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to give you one more before our brain break. Try and find a nice juicy one. In my mind's probably going to give you two more. But let's see how we go. Alrighty, so I'm just scrolling over. If you need me to come back, I'll come back later. So you're working out the perimeter still. Let me just put that as an instruction. Determine the perimeter. I'm so bad with instructions when I do my notes. Alrighty, so your shape is as follows. Whoop. Okay, so I want the perimeter of that shape. Grade 8. Let's give it a try. Sorry, my lines are a bit wonky, but we're just gonna roll with it because clearly it's not really feeling me. They're all at right angles. I know it doesn't look like it, but they are. I did my best.
Oh, snap, did you, Sam? That's exactly what I was thinking.
As I saw your message come up, I was like, same wavelength. No, I have no idea what to do. Nice, grade 8. I'm going to give you 1 more minute. Alrighty, guys. So let's have a look. We have the 12 meters down the right-hand side, and we've got the 3 meters down the right-hand side as well. Now, what I want you guys to see is that if you translated or if you shifted that 12 meters or imagine that same dimension on the other side, we have got 12 meters on that side. And in the same way, if we imagine the 3 meters going over, that makes up the remaining length on that side. So technically what we have here is a total of 15 meters, if we say 12 plus 3. Right now, a very similar thing is going to happen when we now talk about the length at the top. We've got 4 meters down at the bottom, which if I imagine that going up and translating to that side, there's my 4 meters. And I've got 5 meters over here, which again, if I imagine going up, that is 5 meters, which means that in total here, I'm working with a 9 meter length. Now, once you have all of that, the perimeter is very easy to find because we know that our perimeter will be that top 9 that we've just worked out, plus the 12, plus the 5, plus the 3, plus the 4, plus the 15 that we worked out. So guys, with shapes like this, it's not supposed to be complicated, but you do need to look carefully at what you've been given. So our perimeter here is 9 plus 12 plus 5 plus 3 plus 4 plus 15. Right, so 9 plus 12 is, I'm doing this in my head, I don't know why. 9 plus 12 is 21, plus 5, 26, plus 3, 29, plus 4, 33, plus 15, 48. And so this gives us a 48 meter perimeter. Right, so again, not supposed to be complicated, not supposed to overcomplicate. You just need to look very carefully at what you've been given in order to go and determine your answer. Right, so before we take a brain break, I'm giving you 1 more, and then we'll take a brain break. So same instruction, determine the perimeter. I'm just gonna use the space down here. I don't know why I want to overcomplicate the situation. Alrighty. So again, I want the perimeter of this beautiful shape that I've just drawn here. I'll just number it A and B so that when you take screenshots, you can differentiate. Let's try that one. Just look carefully at the dimensions that I've given you. I am not getting 68, but it's also entirely possible that I've done something silly. So let's just double check myself. Because as you guys often know, that sometimes I'm a bit silly. On to maths today. I'm going to give you another minute and then we're going to work through it because I've gotten 2 different answers. Jason, I'm not too sure what you mean 8 plus 9 plus 6. Don't know where you're getting the 6 from. Because remember, 6 is a vertical length, not a horizontal. Right, guys, I think let's take a look because we're all getting different answers. So clearly, we need to double check ourselves. Right. Okay. So this one is a little bit more complicated, and I think this is why we're getting different answers because there's a fair amount that we need to determine before we can even start thinking about the perimeter. All right, so let's start with sides that we don't know. We do not know the side length over here. However, what I know is that if I continued the side length all the way down, that has to give me a full 20 centimeters. That was given to me in the middle. Now, if I know that this dotted length over here is 6 centimeters, because it's the vertical distance that I gave you, that means that this missing length up here must be 14 centimeters, because 14 plus 6 gives me the 20 centimeters. So that's the first length that I know. I'm sorted there. Then it gets to this missing side length or sort of horizontal length that I don't know. Now again, if I took the total of the 8, the 9, and whatever this missing side length is, I know I must get 24 centimeters. Right, so to get that side length, 24 minus 8 minus 9 gives us 7 centimeters for that horizontal. Right, the final missing bit that I don't know is this side length over here in blue. Now again, this whole length from top to bottom must be 20. If I've already got that this is 16, this small little bottom bit must be 4 centimeters. And now that I have all of my dimensions, I can go and add together. So it's going to be 24 plus the 14 plus 7 plus 6 plus 9 plus the 4 plus 8 plus the 16 up the side. Terrible highlighting skills, but we will just leave it at that. So perimeter equals all of those values added together. I'm just going to write them down. Oh. Okay, and then when we add that all up, most because I need to double check myself here, we get 88 centimeters. Apparently the arrow wants to go the other way. Alrighty guys, so this one definitely slightly more complicated because there was a fair amount that we needed to work out. And again, look carefully at what dimensions I have actually given you in order for you to work out your missing lengths. So let's take our screenshots of these two. If anyone has any questions, please do ask so we can sort it out before we move on. And hopefully if we didn't get 88, we do see where we potentially went wrong. Yes, I'm just waiting for screenshots and any questions. Okay, good. Alrighty guys, so brain break. There it is, you know exactly how this works. First person to get it right, I will let you know in the chat and then you can explain it for us. Please note that if you get it right, I'm going to call on you. So please be ready to explain it for us. Okay, if you need to, obviously stand up, take a stretch. But let's try our brain break. Guys, obviously take note as well of where there's 2 birds versus 1. Yeah, I hope we're all trying. Settle, take the chance. Why not? Ziva as well, take the chance. Yeah, I have seen the correct answer. I just want to give everyone a chance to at least try it, but I'll call on you now. Alrighty, Chantal, you were lucky number 1. Do you want to raise your hand to explain it for us? Hey.
Evening, ma'am.
Evening.
Ma'am, for the first one, I said 24 divided by 3, which I got 8.
Nice.
Ma'am, then I said 5 times 8, which I got 40. Then I said plus 5, which I got 45.
Nice.
Then, ma'am, I said 5 times 7, which I got 35. Then I said plus 5, which I got 40. Then, ma'am, I said 5 times 2, which I got 10, plus
Yes.
7. And ma'am, times times 16. Then I said
Good.
7. Then ma'am, I said 7 times 16, which I got 112 plus 10, which I got 122.
Excellent. Well done. And guys, really importantly, did you hear Chantal did BODMAS? It's so important that we do BODMAS. Very, very well explained, Chantal. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mute myself. I do just want to point out something, and it's like, it's more to help you in the future. When you get to like a step like this equation, and you know the 8, but you don't know the 5s. Okay, so I'm going to take them all. Remember, the chickens are the same thing. So you could replace that with an x. Now, x times 8 is 8x, plus x must give us 45. 8x and x are like terms. So I could then have 9x equals 45. Solve my equation, x is equal to 5. And so you could actually go and use algebra to get those 5s as well. I'm not saying you have to, but remember, this is the point of these things, to start thinking about how to solve for unknowns. All right, grade 8's very nicely done. Righty, so let's have a look at our next example. I'm actually going to put both of these up because you guys are doing really, really nicely. So let's give a try of question A and question B. And I want you to think, I'm going to come back to this now. I want you to think about what I spoke about here in question A for the first question. The fact that you can take aside, so the fact that we took this 12 meters and we imagined it moving over in order to get a portion of that. The fact that we could take the 3 meters, imagine it moving over to get the rest of it and end up with 15 meters. So I just want you to think about that when you start with the first question that I've put up on the screen here. So let's try A and B. And in question B, just take careful note of what part of the perimeter you don't know and how you could potentially go and work it out. Remember, obviously, your units as well and your answers, guys. And remember that if you have to use Pythagoras at any point, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, you need to have your reason for Pythagoras. And guys, let's keep our answers to 2 decimal places just for sake of consistency, if necessary. And guys, don't forget, if you're feeling stuck or you have questions while you're doing it, ask in the chat so we can help you. Guys, remember, if you struggle to see the screen, you need to log out and log back in, or unpin and repin my screen. If you're still struggling, then let us know. But those are your first two things that you need to try. I'll give you a hint for question B. Your answer will be a decimal. I'm going to give you another minute or so. Okay, guys, so I don't want to go over time, so let's have a look. If you're not finished, oh, sorry, don't stress, just fill in the answers of what you've left out as we go along. All right, so guys, first question is, and I said to you, look at or think back to what we did in the previous question A. So what I want you to see is that this 7,2, we could pull over to be 7,2 there. But then this little vertical length and this little vertical length, we can pull over to essentially make up the 14,7. And so what that means is that here on the left, in total, this vertical length plus this vertical length plus the 7,2 centimeters does actually equal 14,7. So we don't need to work out the individual lengths. We're not even going to need to add the 7,2. We know that whole thing is 14,7. Now the same is true for the horizontal lengths, right? So if we have a look here, this horizontal length, if I bring it up, forms part of the 15,8. This horizontal length forms another part. This horizontal length forms the rest. So if we go and combine, or if we go and add up all of these horizontal lengths that I have here, I can't think of another symbol, in actual fact, I end up with a total of 15,8 centimeters. So there was actually no working out of the missing lengths required. I actually had everything. You can almost imagine it like a rectangle that's been bumped in. If I were to take this horizontal length and this vertical length and this horizontal length and that vertical length and almost like bump it out, it will actually end up forming my rectangle. And so I just am working out the perimeter of a rectangle. So that means my perimeter is 15,8 plus 15,8 plus 14,7 plus 14,7. And that in total gives you 61 centimeters. So like I said, there was no working out required of you. You needed to see that it did actually form a rectangle that had just been like pushed in. But once you knew that, like I say, normal rectangle calculation. When it then comes to question B, if we go and have a look at our perimeter and what we need, we have JK, we have KL, we have, whoopsie daisies, I don't want to do that. Let's try that again. We have LM, all right? What we are missing is HM from that base length. And then continuing on, I have HJ. So I actually have everything except for that tiny little portion of HM. Now, if you look at where HM is, it's actually forming part of a right angle triangle. And so if I imagine that triangle, I don't know what's happening. If I imagine this triangle sort of out of the shape and work with it as a triangle just to get that HM length, I know I can use Pythagoras. Now, someone asked earlier, what would happen if we weren't working out the hypotenuse? This is now a question like that. So this was 4, this was 3, we're looking for HM. So hypotenuse squared, 4 squared is equal to HM squared plus 3 squared. Right, and this is all because of Pythag. 4 squared is 16, HM squared is HM squared, that's what I'm trying to find. 3 squared is 9. If I now go and subtract 9 on both sides to get HM squared alone, I end up with 7 equals HM squared. Remember, I don't want HM squared, I want HM. So I'm going to have to square root both sides in order to get rid of that square. And so therefore HM is equal to the square root of 7. Now the square root of 7 is some whole long decimal. 2,64575131 meters. Now grade 8s, technically this is not your final answer, so you should not be rounding off. You should keep that entire decimal, but remember your calculator stores it. So now when you push the answer button, your calculator will automatically use the last answer that it saved, the 2,64575 blah blah blah. So now when we want to go and determine the perimeter of this shape, we've got the 6 meters at the top, plus the 5, plus the 10 at the bottom, plus the square root 7 or 2,6457 blah, blah, blah that we've just worked out, plus the last 4 meters. Okay, so once we have worked out what HM is, we can easily work out our perimeter. And our perimeter here ends up being 27,65 meters. This is my final answer, so I can round it off now. But technically, you shouldn't round off until your final answer. If you do, it's not the end of the world, but just remember that it is only your final answer you should ever round.